Hello and welcome to Distributed Systems and Blockchain in the News. My name is Tomasz Boczek, and last week I presented in the news about the GPUs price availabilities, that those GPUs are hard to get because miners use them to mine cryptocurrencies, so the price will go up and you have difficulty to buy those chips. And this week I came across an article that neon gas, which Ukraine is providing to the chip manufacturers, which is actually essential for the lasers to build and manufacture those chips. So this neon gas is actually produced in Ukraine, and this article from Reuters shows the problem currently because of the war. So neon will become scarce, meaning that the prices for chips can go up. There were already car manufacturers that delayed or even stopped production, so this might become a global problem for the tech industry. As a countermeasure, the Chinese, for example, they already announced to ramp up their production of neon gas, same as South Korea. They planning new plants and new facilities for to produce neon gas in the second half of 2020. Here the link from Global Times, a Chinese website. And they mentioned that the world currently relies, or the neon gas from Ukraine makes around 70% of the global supply, so that is quite huge. And here we have the link from the South Korean announcement. Yeah, they're still ramping up, and in the second half they should be ready to produce neon gas, which is required for the lasers for chip manufacturing. The next article is also about Ukraine. It's from Handelsblatt. It's a German German site, which reports that the EU wants to put pressure on the financial side on Russia, also including cryptocurrencies, which is quite interesting. The reason behind that is that Russia is banned from SWIFT. SWIFT is the payment network, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications, so where the transactions flow around between the banks. So Russia is banned from that. The fallback, obviously, cryptocurrencies, especially for the people in Russia. This seems to be a good alternative to transfer still money, because you cannot send money out of Russia. I think this is also not allowed from a Russian perspective, so they want to make sure that their currency stays at a certain level, so they are not allowing that. And one option is of course cryptocurrencies. Here we see a video of people staying in queue to get the money, to withdraw money from the banks, and yeah, if you cannot access your money, then this is a huge problem. And as a fallback, Bitcoin and Ethereum, which still works, and we already saw huge spike in the Bitcoin and Ethereum prices. We see that, for example, the 7-day average plus 21%. It was even more now. It's around 21%. Ethereum also 21%. Here we have the stable coins, but almost all cryptocurrencies are positive. So it seems that people are buying it since this has no restriction. That's the idea of Bitcoin, Ethereum. So everyone can participate, everyone can send money around. So this is a alternative to escape this kind of ban and still be able to have control over your assets. As a reaction to that, Minister of Ukraine, he requested that cryptocurrencies, this article here from Heise, that cryptocurrency exchanges ban Russian people from being able to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrencies. However, I don't think that the cryptocurrency exchanges will include or have this policy, since the crypto movement is that it should bring financial freedom to everyone and not be a political playball. So of course this has advantages and disadvantages, but I believe that the cryptocurrency exchanges, they will remain neutral on that. I also mentioned in the last lecture, hardware will eventually fail, and also mentioned that I expect that the internet in Ukraine will fail. There was now an interesting development. There was a request to Starlink. Starlink is a satellite-based internet from the founders Elon Musk, who provides currently over 2,000 satellites in a low orbit that can provide internet. All you need is a dish, and then you can communicate with those satellites and be connected to the internet. There's no ground station required in the country itself, so the ground station can also be someplace else. So that was this article here. This actually was a request by Twitter, and Elon Musk reacted and activated Starlink in Ukraine, and he also sent those satellite dishes to Ukraine, to Kiev. Already these satellite dishes arrived, and I already saw some people doing measurements about the speed and the latency of this Starlink-based internet in Ukraine. So I found this link here from this guy. I googled him, so he's an employee of Ubiquiti, so he knows networking, and this is currently the download speed, so roughly 137 megabits downlink, uplink roughly 24 megabits per second, which is reasonably fast. So if you compare it to other numbers from Starlink users, that's about the range you get. The ping is a bit higher, so typically you get around 30 milliseconds, so this is the round trip time, and here you get 77, maybe since the ground station is not nearby, so there's no ground station in Ukraine, so it's probably someplace else and the signal needs to travel a bit further. So for every request you need to add a latency of 77, almost 80 milliseconds. Which is still fine. So I was talking in my last lectures about latency. I also showed a ping to Australia. You have a latency, a round trip time of 300 milliseconds. And I also did here a test from this website, this lecture website, which already expired. Too bad. I will just create a new one. Now I created a new test for the lecture website, and we see here that time to first byte we need 520 milliseconds. It will take a couple of round trips, so we need to do the DNS request, we need to do the TCP handshake, we need to do the TLS handshake, So I guess we need around 4, maybe 5 round trips, and for each round trip, when we now have this satellite network, we would need to add additionally 70 or 80 milliseconds, or 77 in this example milliseconds, which would add overhead. I'm estimating around, I don't know, 400, 300, 400 milliseconds, which is still fine. So you can browse the internet, you can go on social media, that should work reasonably well. What you cannot do is professional esports, where latency is really important, but I don't think this is currently the concern of Ukrainian people. There was even the request, this article here, it's also a German article from the news site Golem, that internet should be, or Russland should be banned from the internet, and there was the swift response from the responsible organization, which said no, we should remain neutral, everybody should have the same access, and so that's definitely here a no-go to ban internet from Russia, or to ban Russia from the internet. The last article is about OneWeb. OneWeb is similar to Starlink. They offer a satellite-based internet, and they rely on the launch of these satellites on the Soyuz rockets, and this is operated by Russia, by Roscosmos, and now they said to OneWeb, we won't launch these satellites until you meet 2 demands. This article says it's an extraordinary demand. Well, the first demand is that the Starlink satellites should not be used for military purposes, which is of course against one of the use cases from OneWeb. OneWeb has a dedicated use case, so they have a section here, government, where they show where OneWeb or how OneWeb could be used, of course military application. And the second demand is that the UK, which is partially owner, not majority owner, but partially owner, needs to give up their shares in order that OneWeb could be launched. There were discussions also from OneWeb if they should launch with the Soyuz rockets or not. Then they proceeded. Now the Roscosmos said no, you need to meet those 2 demands. So I guess they will need to find other carriers to bring their satellites into the low orbit. And Starlink, they use SpaceX, so they're independent of that, but there the main use case is bring internet to rural areas, and yeah, OneWeb also has this use case of military application, so that's also a difference.